Welcome to Your Healing Era, a podcast for artists, creatives, healers, anyone living outside the traditional mold who's searching beyond the conventional forms of healing. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and rate the podcast. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into today's episode. All right, so welcome everyone to another episode, and today I have a really special guest that I'm really honored to have. It's Dr. Kate Klemer. I'll tell you a little bit about her. So before we dive into a conversation, Dr. Kate Klemer is a pioneer in the field of health and wellness. With decades of experience, her innovative approach combines holistic health practices with cutting-edge holistic health research, providing unparalleled care to her patients. And I would attest to that. Dr. Kate's journey into craniosacral therapy began in the early 80s when she studied at the Upledger Institute. She earned her Doctor of Chiropractic degree at the University of Western State, blending craniosacral therapy with chiropractic and nutrition. In 2013, Dr. Kate founded Divine Structure School of Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy to bring her clinical information and experience out into the teaching world. When she was young, she lived in India, and her interest in healing started early, influencing by East Indian culture and witnessing a man healing another person with pressure points. Getting close to some people in India was a big influence on her view of life, and she visited ashrams and ancient sites that opened her young mind and heart. Dr. Kate's philosophy emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings and the inherent healing potential within everyone. Her approach to patient care is holistic, recognizing that true healing involves not only in addressing physical symptoms, but also nurturing emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, and relational well-being. We're going to talk about that more. Dr. Kate's special esoteric capabilities extend beyond traditional healthcare practices, encompassing profound connection to subtle energy fields and spiritual and energetic dimensions. Her intuitive abilities allow her to sense and work by attuning to the vibrational frequencies of her clients and reveal blockages and imbalances that are not apparent through conventional methods. This unique blend of esoteric skills and scientific knowledge positions Kate as a bridge between tangible and intangible, offering a full spectrum of healing. Dr. Kate is also trauma-informed, so her work, she knows the importance of the relational field, settling, and safety. She also places a strong emphasis on systemic health concerns, digestive disorders, fatigue, immune system deficiencies. She treats patients with chronic health issues, long COVID, viral or parasitic or bacterial patterns, cognitive issues, hormonal issues, liver imbalances, gut imbalances, digestive issues, inflammatory patterns, and so many things. And her work really gets to the root of the health issues rather than chasing around symptoms. So now she's based in Western Massachusetts. She's teaching and she's seeing a lot of clients. So thank you, Kate, for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Noga. I'm doing well. Yeah, it's nice. Nice morning in Charlemont.
Yeah, is it springing already?
Yeah, it's starting to be springing. The sun's coming out. It's melting everything. It's wonderful.
Yay. I guess something we can start with, I think a lot of people don't really know what craniosacral is. Some people have heard of it. Some people have not even heard of it. And
hmm
I find it not the easiest thing to articulate. I have different ways of explaining, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Well, it's one of the few modalities that really helps the automatic nervous system, which is big in the news these days with the vagus nerve, the ventral vagus nerve to be exact. And that, when you orient that part of the nervous system and support that part of the nervous system, that's where healing takes place. And like chiropractic is more orienting towards the fight flight, the sympathetic nervous system, working on the spine and structure. And craniosacral works more with the cranium and the sacrum, but also um, kind of working with the bridge between energy in the body so that how energy breathes through your cells and directs them to do their job, and bridging that place where, you know, the body has an energy field, because after you pass on, you have a body, but there's no soul or spirit in the body because you're gone. So there is an enlivening factor that happens throughout your whole life that enlivens your somatic body. And so craniosacral really helps bridge the two together. Different modalities like chiropractic more unblocks anatomical blockages in the body in the tissue field to allow for the body to do its own thing. Whereas craniosacral is actually working directly with that breath coming through the body and how it expresses through the body and magnifying that, supporting that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, beautifully articulated. When I talk to people about it, they're like, "Oh, so it's like Reiki?"
Yeah, it's different than Reiki. That's a great question because Reiki is energy work. It works with the energy field, but craniosacral, biodynamic craniosacral focuses on how that energy breathes through the anatomy and how it's connecting with embodiment. So it's a much more embodied, grounded form of energy work. And it works with what we call the blueprint and magnifying our blueprint, which is our health. That keeps us the thing that knows how to heal a cut. When you cut your finger, you don't need to tell the white blood cells to go there and the red blood cells to clot it. And your body just knows how to do that. You just have to keep it clean and put a band-aid on it and it heals. So Reiki's a bit different in that it's just more working with the energy field.
Yeah, I remember when I first read, correct me if I'm wrong, but like some of the people that developed craniosacral as a thing, as a field, were osteopaths who were working with the bones. And I remember reading about, was it Dr. Sutherland who was listening and we used to think that bones are just like dead, pieces of our, bones. We didn't know that they had all this stuff going on in them. And then he discovered that our bones are actually breathing.
That's right. Yeah. He did a lot of experiments on himself. He made like a helmet and put pressure on his head in certain ways and wrote down his symptoms. He'd have his wife take it off his head because he started having really bad headaches. And I think he might have even lost his eyesight temporarily from that. So he was really trying to point out the significance of the cranial bones and different configurations of pressure. So,
Yeah. So when you discovered craniosacral, you were studying chiropractic.
yeah, I'm one of those people that, I kind of end up somewhere and I don't really know how I got there. And then after I get there, I figure out, oh, that's why I came here. So I knew I knew I wanted to work with my hands and I knew I wanted to study science because I have both. I like science, but I also like energy and body work. And so I was my first semester in school and I went to see an upperclassman and in school you have a clinic where you first start working on other students and then after this, then in your fourth year, you work with the public in the clinic. And so I got a session from her and I was so stressed out. I was one of the younger people in my class and was kind of intimidated and by the older students. And she worked on me and then she held my head for about 20 minutes. And I didn't know what she was doing. I just kind of relaxed. And then I got up off the table and I said, I feel so much better. Like, what was that? Like, I couldn't believe how different I felt. And she had been a massage therapist before. She said, oh, that's craniosacral therapy. And and from that moment on, I was like, that's why I'm here. I mean, I like chiropractic and stuff. It's good, it's grounded. It's actually, people don't realize it, but it's quite grounded in science. It's very straightforward biochemistry, biomechanics. But craniosacral it really affected my autonomic nervous system. I really felt calm. I really felt relaxed. And chiropractic does that a little bit, but not to the degree that this treatment did.
So then after that you started your path on craniosacral. but you've been doing both for a long time.
Yeah, I've always done both, and I like joined. We had a cranial club, and we read Upledger's book because there really weren't that many books out there. And then I took a class with this guy, Clyde Ford, who taught for Upledger, and he was a chiropractor, and he's a really cool guy. He's an author out in Bellingham, Washington. Basically, he also like worked with IBM superconductors and stuff. He is really bright. And I was taking the intro class, and then I had some really powerful experiences in that class that drove it home even further that the work is quite powerful. So then I just kept pursuing after that. I did that work for 10 years, just basic upledger work and working with bones and in what we call the CRI, the cranial rhythmic impulse, which is like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, a much faster movement of the cranial, and it's much more localized, very localized treatment. Um, and then after that, I was like, is that all there is? I feel like there's something else. I'm feeling these other things. I don't know what they are. And there were no other trainings that a chiropractor or massage therapist could take in our country. So I went to England and studied with some osteopaths for 5 days, British osteopaths. And there I met Michael Kern, who's my teacher, Wisdom in the Body, he wrote. And all the osteopaths were just talking about like this nerve goes through this hole and you want to take pressure off it and do this hold. And I was like, yeah, I know that. But then Michael Kern came in and started talking, doing just a guest lecture. And I was like, that's the guy. That's why I came here again. And I just could feel his energy, so to speak, or his vibe. And I just was like, wow, I have to study with him. So I
Hey, I'm gonna pause for just a minute because I really gotta tell you about this. If you're feeling called to go deeper on this work, and if you're a woman who loves making music or exploring sound, writing songs, and expressing yourself creatively, I'm leading a retreat in Mexico this summer. It's an intimate, immersive week of embodied healing and creative expansion. We'll have a professional recording studio on site. We'll be writing, producing, dancing, practicing yoga, meditating, swimming in the ocean, all the things. So really living inside our bodies and inside our art. If this is calling you, all the details are below. We have limited spots and we have early bird pricing, so go check it out. And if Mexico isn't happening for you right now, I also have a free nervous system regulation tool that you can explore at home in your own time. And if you're ready for something more structured, my full nervous system sorcery course is also available. Everything is linked below. All right, let's get back to the episode.
said, I knew he taught these 2-year trainings. So I went up to him after and I said, are you going to teach in the United States? Because he has a school in London. And he says, as a matter of fact, Kate, I'm going to be teaching in Boston. And so I scrambled to get into that training. I got in
The
and
rest is history.
yeah, and then I started, then we started broadening out and studying these other things that I'd been feeling, but I didn't have words for until I took that class.
That's so cool. And now you teach that stuff yourself.
And now I teach this stuff because it's just, how you just find something that you really love, like you're kind of just a little bit obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about cranial work, biodynamic cranial work.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you teach it.
I like being in the teaching environment. I like being in the group. I like being in the classroom because really powerful things can shift for people in a group of students and grounded team that supports the students. It's a bit different. It's more exponentiated than just a one-on-one session. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much training nowadays available online, and then it's just not the same experience when you're actually sitting in a room with people.
Yeah.
Also, for listeners who don't know, I actually went through the 2-year training with Kate. So we met up every couple of months, the whole group for a long weekend. So it's like you have 2 years to over time really assimilate and embody and practice and really take those things in.
Yeah, and you do a lot of personal work that can help your relationships and help your life and your family and your loved ones and your connection with yourself. That's probably the a huge part because you have to do that work to become a practitioner. If you can do that with yourself, then you can support other people.
Yeah, yeah. I've had like big like lifelong patterns shift, I believe, through this training.
Well, that's
Um
great. That's why I teach. That, that's the
No,
reason why.
seriously, like things like, I used to bite my nails or like have like just my entire life. Like I barely have that anymore. I thought that was just like something that was like wired into my system that's just like just melted.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was something I was like, when that goes away, I will know something really shifted. But anyway, I read something in your bio earlier that you specify that your work is trauma informed and you emphasize the importance of the relational field and safety, which is something I think is so lacking, in my opinion, for a lot of health practitioners. So can we talk about the relational field and what does that mean to be trauma informed?
Yeah, the relational field is like the center of the biodynamic work, the biodynamic cranial work. And basically it's how deeply you can settle your nervous system in relationship to yourself, your own relational field with yourself, and then how you can, as a practitioner, support another person settling in their safety. Because the more we can find our autonomic nervous system and find safety and find settling, it actually literally we rewires our system. And a lot of diseases are based in a lack of settling, a lack of safety in our nervous system that is causing hypertension or causing high blood sugar or you can't just, I mean, you can give meds to make those things change, but you can't give meds to make it go away. And I've had experiences with biodynamic cranial where you can actually change those things. Like you can make it go away. And maybe you don't need a medication, but maybe you need just some dietary changes or some herbs, but you don't need a medication. So, kind of going off on a tangent, but there's a real direct connection with the vagus nerve, which is the Grand Master Flash. I'm sharing. I'm from the 80s of the rap group Grandmaster Flash. It's like the Grandmaster Flash of nerves that without this vagus nerve, you would never slow down. It'd be like you'd not be on 5 cups of coffee all day in fight flight. So that's the nerve that actually helps you sleep. It helps you, just hang out and relax. It helps lower your heart rate. It actually helps you play sports so you can like speed up and chase a ball and then slow down, go back and forth. So it's like the brake on the fight flight sympathetic nervous system.
And also, just to add to that whole relational field importance, most traumas, would you say, happen in relation to something, to someone?
Yes. Yes, especially, early when we're growing up or when we're being carried. Most, like conception is primary trauma and in utero is secondary, and then tertiary is probably until you're like 18 months, and then quaternary is like from, you know, maybe like 18 months to 13, and then, like 14 on is just your life. But the younger, the longer you've had those traumas, the deeper, especially if they're pre-verbal, um, because you felt everything that your mom was going through and your family, you were feeling into the field of your family. They have really strong impacts on your mind-body system. Bruce Lipton talks about it in his book, Biology of Belief. But basically, if you can access those imprints, which is awesome about working through the body in relationship with another person whose nervous system is regulated and stable, you can access pre-verbal states and support them in healing.
In a
Because
session.
yeah, and you can't really do that with talk therapy.
Yeah.
It's much more cognitive.
Yeah, like most of us are not necessarily aware how just being around other people affects us. You know, like when I'm alone in my room, I'm a certain way, and then I go out of my room and I meet people, whether I meet people I know or I'm going to work or I'm walking down the streets, there's other people like how my system is responding to just other people being around, let alone someone getting close to me as I'm laying on a treatment table and puts their hands on my head or my back or something. There's just so much in there, and there's so many practitioners who are not trauma informed, not trying to diss people, but I just see more and more of how much we need health
Yeah,
practitioners will be trauma informed.
there's so much override where you're on the table and, you know, you came to, I saw my doctor the other day. I really like him, but, not trauma informed. And, you know, you might share something with him that you're going through in your emotional life and your personal life, and they just like, oh, okay, and that's all they say. They don't signal that, wow, that sounds hard, or, um, they just ask you the next question, like it's any old day. And that would signal to the person that's, looking to that person for their health more than just lab tests, but maybe being seen, maybe being heard, maybe being acknowledged. That would help my nervous system drop down. So when they take my blood pressure, it's not going to be like 150 over
Yeah.
90. It's going to be 120 over 80, So um, that connection has been lost in Western medicine. They're trying to get it back, but um, it's hard, it's a lot. There's a lot to learn, and they save lives. Like they're fixing broken arms and, doing heart surgery. So they don't really have space to work on the relational field. Alternative health really does have space to do that. And that's what makes us really special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just even asking before you do something. Like I'm on tour, we have an opportunity to see a PT, a physical therapist, once a week if we want to for a short session, like 20 or 30 minutes. There isn't someone traveling with us. They have someone at each city. And so they're all different. But every time they have somewhat trauma-informed skills, I'm like so appreciative. Just that they ask me, is that okay? I want to work on the front of your shoulder. You know, I often go for my shoulder because I'm playing like this all the time. So I go and have my shoulder worked on or something. Just like having someone ask if it's okay to
Mhm.
make this touch or okay to do this thing.
Mhm. It's so different when someone looks at you like an alive being instead of like a piece of wood or a book, or, like they talk to you and touch you like you're more than just a machine, like your body, like there's a being in there with feelings and, physical layers or emotional layers or mental layers or spiritual layers or
Yeah, so
energetic.
so that actually brings me to the next thing that I wanted to ask you about, which is all of these different aspects. So I love that you're a very scientific oriented person, um, while at the same time very energetically in tune. And I recently had Bridget on my podcast actually, and we talked about PEMSR. So if anybody didn't listen to that episode, I think it's episode number 2, and you can go and listen to our episode together where we talk about PEMSR. But I know that you are teaching about PEMSR and you work with that too. So just for people who don't know, PEMSR stands for physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, and relational, right? And this is basically our different aspects of our being.
Mhm.
how does that come into work when someone's coming for a body work session or whatever they think craniosacral session is?
Yeah, when you're working with these things that we call inertial fulcrums or stuck places in the body, stuck places in the body mind system, you might come across something coupled in there in those Pemser layers. So there might be a physical layer of shoulder pain, right? And then in that physical layer of shoulder pain, there might be a layer of a memory of being a little kid and, falling in the playground and, hurting your arm. And then there might be a layer of like, nobody noticed that you fell and you were hurt. And so you were lying there and nobody came over and said, "Are you okay?" So there might be an emotional layer there. So, when you can like, when the practitioner can feel and name, not specifically, like they may not know all the history, but they can sense that there's that layer in there, it really helps resolve the trauma. Sometimes you can go in and you can just work with the tissue field and just clear it that way. But lots of things come back over and over until the different Pemser layers are worked with. And some of those are ancestral, which is a
Um,
podcast, but
yeah, but we can go there.
yeah. Yeah, so some of these things are, you felt everything in your family when you're in utero and your mom, especially your mom's system, everything she went through, and she felt everything that her mom went through. And also, you're going to be feeling into the field of if your mom had a partner, the dad or whoever, the other parent, if there was another parent. And it's like we kind of prepare our nervous system to come out to be in that unit, that family. And also, like, a lot of trauma is this is a bit esoteric, but I when I work with people, I'll sense these like rings around. They'll have the body and then the biosphere, which is like the first ring of energy, maybe 3 feet off the body, and then there's another ring, and I can actually feel where those rings are dented, like a car being dented. And often that's ancestral things that our ancestors have been through.
And so I know that you can feel those things, but
Mhm.
maybe the client or the person isn't noticing. So how do you, what are you fixing the dents?
I am fixing the dents, and I don't talk about it with many clients because a lot of people are just looping their ancestral trauma and they don't even know that they're carrying it. And they just like, why won't this thing clear? I've been to the physical therapist and the massage therapist and acupuncture and orthopedic surgeon, and it's not getting better. And um, because you're carrying the load of your ancestors. So when you differentiate from that, which you can do non-verbally with somebody like us, basically like you can say, "Oh wow, that's not mine. Like that is not my I'm half Irish, both my grandmothers were Irish, and oh wow, they came over when they were like 16, and my grandma had 5 kids and 4 of them died of diphtheria. Wow, that's going to be quite a strong imprint in my ancestry of like being upset and scared and different layers to that. So those things really affect us. Wars, famines, you know, fascism, all those kind of things like affect our people that
Yeah.
we evolve from.
Yeah, in ways that we know and in ways that we don't know, or histories that we are cognitively aware of, or histories that we have no idea about because it was quite a few generations back.
Yeah, and if we can just stop carrying the whole load and just be like, wow, that just doesn't feel like it's mine. Like it's
How do you recommend people identify such things or get in touch even with things to discern what is mine, what isn't mine?
Well, they could go the left brain route and watch a video called The Ghost in Your Genes. They could do a family constellation workshop and witness a few of those before they become like a participant of like the person that they focus on. That works a lot with ancestry. They could do cranial work with somebody like me or you that, has a sense of that. They could do some alchemical alignment work with Bridget Vixnan's. There's lots of different ways to approach it. But also just like asking your family about like what happened and were there any miscarriages? Were there wars? What was going on when, like my parents lived through the Depression. So they grew up, with World War II and the Depression. So that's going to influence how they hold themselves in the world. Now, even with us in our country, that's going to influence how we hold our systems.
Right. You mentioned the ghost in your jeans. I have not seen that video. Now I'm curious because people like really believe like, oh, this is genetic, as if genetic is only physical.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
It's
Like we carry emotional patterns, we carry energetic patterns, we carry mental patterns. It's not just physical DNA.
Yeah, and it's all quantum physics. I mean, if you want to study it and talk about it, it's all quantum physics where it's really different than Newtonian physics. Newtonian physics is all like, the apple hits you on the head and gravity, lets the apple fall and off the tree and bonk you on the head like Sir Isaac Newton. But quantum physics, the laws are completely different. Time is not linear. When you heal your system now, you're healing your ancestors. And a lot of indigenous cultures know this, but white cultures, I'll just be blatant,
That's fine.
unless it's indigenous, a lot of indigenous cultures know these things. That's why they have ceremony. That's why they honor their ancestors, because they know that their ancestors are still here in their system. They're still in the field of their life. Now, most of us don't walk around thinking of that unless you're a biodynamic cranial therapist or alchemical alignment therapist, but um, it's still there whether you know it or not. You're still responding to your environment based on your experience of being embodied, but also your ancestors' experience of being embodied. And
Hmm.
yeah, and you don't even have to know, like if you were adopted or something, you don't have to know all that, like who those people were. You'll just feel it in the field. You don't have to know what the dent is and the rings in the field. Like you just feel the dent and you feel the emotions of it, you feel the physical aspects of it. You might feel the relational or energetic aspects of it.
And you can embark on your healing explorations and find some resolution for generations to come.
Yes, you definitely can. And you still have your midline. You still have your midline that we talk about that's so important in biodynamic work. It's like a practitioner fulcrum. It is the practitioner fulcrum. It stabilizes your system. So if you're going way out into ancestors, you're still in your body, you're still here, you're still present, and you're still functional in the world. But you're also like holding both. You're holding the larger perceptual field. And that is really powerful.
That's fascinating. Kate, I feel like we could talk for hours. But
We,
if people want to find you, learn about your course or check out your meditations, or maybe even Kate does also remote sessions. If anyone's not in her area, I highly recommend it. So if people want to find you, is that your website or what would be good?
yeah, the website's a great place to start, divinestructure.com. You could also email me at drkate@divinestructure.com.
Cool. I'll put all of that info also in the show notes for people.
Yeah, and my training, my biodynamic training is it's really great. You get to be with the same people for 2 years, so you really get into a deepening state and get to know people and look forward to seeing them. We have a great team of people. Alexa teaches with me, Alexa Williamson. She's a massage therapist and a polarity practitioner.
Yeah,
And
Alexa's amazing.
she's amazing. She's a yoga teacher. She's just amazing human being. And we also have that hybrid. So people can take half the training hybrid and then the rest is in person. So we have 5 days a year in person and then 3 days a year that are online if need be, if you live, too far
Yeah,
away.
and in that training there was lots of different people. Like I was in the training, there's body workers, there's the therapists, um,
Acupuncturists,
midwives.
midwives, yeah, all kinds of people, and you don't even have to have a background in body work. Like, you can come in. It's kind of those people are pretty amazing, actually. The ones who come in with no preconceived body work background.
hmm That's awesome. So yeah, if anyone feels called, you can check out Kate's website, or you can also just book one session just to receive a session to check it out. Is there anything we missed? Anything that is alive that you wanted to mention, talk about, or anything like that?
Um, I think, what's going on in the world these days. There's a lot going on and people are holding a lot. And I think it's really important for us all to learn about resourcing and focusing on what fills us up so that we don't get too drained by things. This is a lot of difficult things in the news. And also, if you can, try to learn about the craniosacral tides, because if you can even just feel those, the mid tide and the long tide, they're very, very stabilizing and very supportive of your nervous system and your mind body system these days and just in general throughout life. So, and I'm
Yay.
teaching intro in early May, a 3-day intro. So you could do that online or in person if you want to come check out the tides.
Cool. So you could do like a weekend intro, no
Yeah.
strings attached.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also module one if you decide to go on.
hmm
And Alexa and I are talking about doing a training where we meet twice a month for just a day and do a training like that. I think we're going to start one like that pretty soon, as well as the usual 12 module training.
That's awesome. Kate, thank you so much for joining me today. It's such a
Yeah.
pleasure talking to you and listening to your wisdom.
Yeah. Thanks for doing the podcast, Noga. And
Yeah.
really good to see you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If this episode resonated, send it to a friend, share it in your stories, or take a moment to rate the podcast and subscribe. It genuinely helps this little baby podcast grow organically and reach to the people that it needs to reach. I really appreciate every comment and every review. And as always, if you want to go deeper, my course, retreat, and free resources are all linked below. This is your healing era. Take care, and I'll see you next time.